games.
Welcome into Triple Zeros, the anti-hot take sports show. I am your host, Josh Buckhalter. Be sure to follow me on X at Josh G. Buck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports. The website is clockersports.com, and the email address is contact@clockersports.com. And, of course, you can follow the show on X and on Facebook at 30spod. That's the number 30 and pod. And as I said, follow the show, Clocker Sports, on every platform. This is the first official NFL show. I told you last episode that I am trying to shift, trying to split it up. A lot of content to go over, not as much time to record each individual episode as is needed, really, to go into in depth as much as I would like on some topics. So trying to do something different a little bit. I actually tried to do this a little while ago when I first started the podcast, and bringing the idea back around because it just makes so much more sense now because I'm doing just so much more stuff now that needs to, like I said, it deserves more coverage. And so this will be the first NFL show. You can catch the NBA show on Friday night or Saturday, depending on when I actually get that bad boy cut up and posted. The football shows will probably air closer to Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Once I start getting, or with the home game audio to share and everything like that, it's just about having some extra content for you guys when I do decide to finally record the episode. So Tuesday or Wednesday for the football episode, Tuesday night or Wednesday night for the football episode, and then Friday night or Saturday night for the NBA episode. That's when it'll hit the feeds. Videos and promos will probably be up by the morning time, the day after that hits the audio feeds. And again, available on all platforms, but you know that already. That's why you're already here. So that being said, we do have a lot to get into today because, like I said, it is the NFL episode. This is week 14. This season is flying by, and it's just a lot to get back to. First and foremost being that the Chicago Bears did return to work today. So I guess if we're going to start anywhere, it should probably start with the place where I was this morning. So as I said, the Bears got back to work. They returned. Matt Eberflus spoke with the media, and you had Cole Kmet. I think somebody else speak on Monday after their return from the bye week. But today we heard from Eberflus again, and also got to speak with Jaquan Brisker. Safety Jaquan Brisker. Go ahead and check out the clockersports.com X feed to see the video of Jaquan Brisker and get the link to the YouTube channel to see the entire media availability from the locker room for Brisker. I also got to speak with D'Onta Foreman, and we'll get to that in a second. But the underlying message here was that they were healthy. This is probably the healthiest the Bears, there's not even a probably. This is the healthiest that the Bears have been all season long. There were a few guys who were listed on 4 total. Tyreek Stevenson, Noah Sewell. You had D'Onta Foreman, and I can't remember who the last guy was, but it'll come to me eventually. And so you had all those guys returning back to practice, and the only one who was limited was Foreman on his return back. Was Noah Sewell on his way back from the knee injury that knocked him out in the Week 12 matchup against his brother Penesi on the Detroit Lions. So hopefully this week I'll get to talk to Noah about looking forward to that matchup. I know we talked early in the season about it, and he was definitely fired up. So I'm hoping to get a chance to speak with him this week and see, now that he actually will get a chance to probably suit up in that game, how much he's looking forward to it. But it was good to see that everybody was healthy, that they are dealing with less injuries that they were in the start of the season. Again, it was always a next man up mentality, and they've done a pretty good job with it. But I think it has to get, I don't want to say tiresome, but it's tough to constantly have to go through that routinely, right? And you're shuffling in linemen, you're shuffling not really so much wide receivers, but running backs, and they were productive with all of them. But it still was something that I think they maybe, well, it's not even a think. I'm sure that they are relieved to not have to worry about that. Now, they can go out there and plan accordingly because they have their full complement of playmakers, protection, defensive linemen, secondaries all together. Like, it's really good. So Larry Bourne was the other guy who was at LNC, who was a full participant, though. Backup left tackle. Backup tackle, I don't know if he even swings back to right anymore. But backup tackle Larry Bourne was the 4th member, along with D'Onta Foreman, who I said was a full participant on that ankle. Noah Sewell was limited with his knee injury, and then Tyreek Stevenson returned to practice with that ankle injury, but he was a full participant as well. Healthy. That's a great sign. And then we heard them talk a lot about finishing, and that's where our conversation with my conversation with D'Onta Foreman kind of went when I asked him how he was feeling and kind of maybe just what it was like for him to have to sit by and watch his teammates, go out there and get a very key victory, but a key victory with him having to be on the sideline. So here's Bears running back D'Onta Foreman just talking about how he's feeling right now and, what his thoughts were watching the team go out there and get that W versus Minnesota Vikings in Week 12. I said Week 12 for the Lions, it was Week 11. Anyway, here goes the running back D'Onta Foreman in the locker room today talking about, just having to watch the team on the sideline in the last game.
Ankle still a little tender, but it feel a lot better than it was. I was able to move around today.
What were your thoughts watching the guys go out there and battle last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was tough being at home, man, and just kind of watching it from the TV. But they played their butts off. They were able to pull out a win and finish, which that's something we've been talking about. So to see those guys go execute and finish the game, division victory, we needed that. So hopefully we can just build off of that and continue to move forward.
So weather's turning outside. It's typically the time when teams tend to lean on the run game. You guys have 3 guys who are capable. How much of a responsibility and honor do you guys carry that in the running back room about trying to carry the load?
I think we carry that mindset every time we touch the field. I think that's our mindset. We all want to play at a high level. We all want to do our best when we get an opportunity. So, confident in every guy, and whatever that looks like, come Sunday, I think we'll all be ready to go and to be the best in our roles.
And there you have Bears running back D'Onta Foreman. Just giving some good stuff, man, talking about how he's feeling right now. Says his ankle's still a little bit tender, but he's ready to go. Like I said, full participant, and looking forward to seeing him back out there. He was running tough before he went down with that injury. So him and Khalil Herbert just got some ugly-looking injuries, and it took them out for a little bit. But when they're healthy, like I said, the Bears have a very talented backfield there. With Roschon Johnson. I actually spoke with him today, too. Did not get video of that, got audio. That's for a story later on this week coming out with him and Khalil Herbert and Foreman's input. So be on the lookout for that on clockersports.com. But I did notice, and that comment that Foreman made about finishing, that was very common from head coach Matty Rufus, who spoke today to the media, Justin Fields, Jaquan Brisker. Again, if you check out the Clocker Sports X feed, you will see Jaquan Brisker talking about how the locker room stayed together this trying time. And I think that those two things go hand in hand, because when you hear players echo a message from the coach to a man the way that the Bears do, right, from the finishing point, that's a Matt Eberflus talking point. When you hear them repeat those things unprompted, on their own, without him even in the room, that's a positive sign. And I guess the larger point that I'm getting at here is I don't know how much the locker room has. I'm not saying he's going to return, but I don't know that if you were counting on a lost locker room being the reason that the Bears, got rid of Matt Eberflus at the end of this season, I don't know if you have that. And I remember the end of Matt Nagy's tenure and thinking that the guy still liked him, right? But I don't know if I remember them quoting him the way that I've heard a couple of players do today and in recent weeks, despite them having so much losing going on. Now, that's just how you keep the locker room together. You have the same message, one message. But it definitely strikes me as an interesting note that amid all this turmoil, all this losing, all these questions about his job security, his future, and all that and the third, players are still going by his message. They're still quoting his message, and it's stuck. It's clearly something that's stuck with him. Whether or not the results have come or not, right now is another topic. But I really do. Admire is not the word, because I'm not striving for what they have. It's just I think it's an admirable thing to see. That you still got these guys bought into the point where they're not, tuning out the message. Again, this is not something that's just like a given. And I asked Matty Rufus about how he's been able to keep those guys together despite the losing, when we've seen other situations around the league devolve into, Jonathan Allen calling out he's tired of losing and stuff like that. And that's a mixed bag, because I've heard that his production's not matching us. A lot of the people that I follow that are in the Commanders' atmosphere, right, will tell you that it's him and Eric Bieniemy are part of the problem rather than parts of the solution for maybe another team. But that's neither here nor there. The Bears have kept together, and to a man, they all repeat it, and it's gonna strike some fans as maybe an interesting note, but it's not just the players; they all point to the coaching staff, keeping them focused and with a clear head despite the turmoil that they've gone through. So again, it's commendable. What will it lead to? I have no idea whatsoever. I'm not here to tell you that it's going to mean that he's going to return next season for his third season as the Bears head coach. I don't know that. The production, the results still have not been there, right? But Ryan Poles talked about the work that they put in behind the scenes, about the ability to maintain the locker room despite all of this. When asked what does he see in Matt Eberflus that would give him the confidence to bring him back next season, these are the things that they're evaluating. And from where I sit, which is not very plugged into to how they talk when there's nobody around, obviously, but they're still hanging on to some of the things at least, that they're being told by the guy in charge of the team on a day-to-day basis. That's, if you're looking for anything, if you're a Matty Eberflus fan, if there's anything that you're trying to find a silver line to the season, I think that is one. That there's not that infight, that there's not that bickering and finger pointing. Again, this is a locker room that had the Chase Claypool situation go down where they had to get rid of a guy because he wasn't giving the best effort. That could have completely derailed a season that was already on its way to doing that. It didn't happen. And so when you hear Foreman talk about finishing, when you hear Brisker talk about finishing, when you hear Fields talk about finishing, when you hear Brisker talking about the coaching staff as part of the reason why they haven't broken apart as a team, I don't know, Bears fans. I just don't know that the change is coming at that position or any of the positions that a lot of people have been speculating on for the past few months. I just don't know. The longer that we go, and again, happenstance, circumstance will lead them to changing out the quarterback position, but that's not a guarantee. I told you I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams fan, but I understand the dynamics of where the Bears are drafting and how these things work. But I don't know that Caleb Williams has shown a ceiling, even in college, that would be higher than what Fields has shown already as a pro. And I know those are apples and oranges, but that's all we got at this point. It's a bold decision to keep Fields in the face of possibly having another shot at the number 1 overall pick and another quarterback. But last season, all the talk was about Bryce Young, and it's C.J. Stroud who's been worlds better this year. So if they would have taken Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud, oh my gosh, what if they do it again? There's a lot of things that can go wrong with this. I know bird in the hand, one in the bush, and all that kind of, 2 in the hand, 1 in the bush. What is it? 1 in the hand, 2 in the bush. That's I'm gonna get the saying right. I just don't know that there's even enough birds in that bush to let go of the one you got, the one you got in hand. I don't get it. So we'll see how it all plays out. But there are a lot of encouraging signs, despite the biggest sign, the most important ones, not quite being where they're supposed to be. But this is part of the problem, I think, when you bring in a rookie general manager and a rookie head coach and a rookie offensive coordinator, and a rookie, this is what you get, right? Fields was essentially a rookie. He wasn't getting coached properly when they brought this staff in. I don't know. The continuity thing, I've been kind of numbed to it thanks to the Chicago Bulls. I have a few notes on the NBA at the end of the show, but I maybe the Bears might want to push for continuity one more season to see where everything goes. I know. It could be disastrous. They could pass on Caleb Williams and Drake May and whoever else is in this draft and be right back at the top next year. And there might not be a prospect as promising as one of those guys. But if you bail now and you're still wrong, you missed out on a chance to not only build the rest of your roster and potentially make yourself attractive for a veteran who might want to trade, but you also potentially get rid of a quarterback who had the ceiling you were looking for before and is shown to be a dynamic player, has shown flashes of being the passer you want him to be. If he goes somewhere and it proves to be a coaching issue, then guess what? So there's not a clear-cut answer here, I don't think, but I think we'll definitely see the public opinion change or sway a little bit more in the weeks coming. I just heard Louis Riddick today talk about they shouldn't move on, but I just heard him last week say that they should. So that's just what I'm talking about right then and there. So that leads me to a broader point. The NFC North is still the black and blue division, by which I mean it's still highly, highly competitive. Coming into the season, all thoughts were that it was the Lions division to lose, and they are atop of it, right? But were it not for a Kirk Cousins injury, the Vikings would be right there. The Packers, to many people's surprise, are right there. But if you listen to the show, I told you, Jordan Love has gotten the system works, right? It's not necessarily that they've gotten a dynamic player. I don't know if Jordan Love is a great player. I think Jordan Love is extremely comfortable in that system. I think he's had an opportunity to sit by and watch every possible situation go past, right? From success to struggles and everything in between. He's gotten the mental reps throughout the week. He's studied game plans, so he knows these teams. He knows these teams far better than they know him. He studied them all for 3 seasons. I'm not as surprised as I think a lot of people are. The Commanders. Whew. So I told you about Jonathan Allen making the comments. I've just been patrolling I guess, scrolling through some Commanders blogs and pages, and some of the reactions I've seen are encouraging if you're a Bears fan, because I see a lot of people lamenting that it was Montez Sweat and not Jonathan Allen who got moved. Jonathan Allen, the stellar defensive tackle. But then the comments about Allen not being what he's cracked up to be is interesting to me, because as a person who has watched teams grow stale and those players on those teams be great players, but again, they too go stale, I think fans of the Commanders, as an outsider, might want to be wary of shipping out talent just for the sake of them calling out what they're experiencing. I think fans often forget that the players are people, and the losing and crap that fans can't stand. Yeah, players don't really like that too much either, and not just because they have to actually be the ones to lose, but guess who is not shy about telling them how upset they are? Fans. Short for fanatic. That's what you're going to get. But I just don't know that the Jonathan Allen's a good player. Is he a great player? I don't know. I don't watch the Commanders consistently enough to tell you that he's a great player, but he's a disruptive player. He's a very good player. He's a very, very one of the better defensive tackles. I'm going to stop short of saying best just because of all the things that I've seen from Commanders fans, which could just be some jilted lover stuff. You know, we've seen that before. But all things that I've read have just been that he talks more than he produces. That's a function of the pieces around him. But it's such a vehement stance that I've been witnessing. It's kind of, taking me aback just because, I didn't think that he would be talked about in this light. Again, players grow stale just like teams grow stale. Situations need to change sometimes. That could be what's happening here. Again, just kind of took me a little bit by surprise. The Eric Bieniemy talk is interesting because it's a lot to do with his ability to call plays. And you could look at Washington and say that, the Bieniemy's not having the kind of impact that I think would make him a head coaching candidate, this coming off season. As I pull up the Commanders rankings here. So they're 22nd in points, 32nd in points on defense. Okay. What else do you got going on here? I know you got Sam Howell. He's actually shown some pocket awareness, some growth as a pocket passer this year. NFL leader in passing yards, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And this is a guy who, I'm not saying that you thought that he wasn't going to do anything, but I don't know how many people expected Sam Howell to come in and be able to maybe not right the ship. That's probably a little bit too much on his shoulders at this point. But 3,466 yards, 18 touchdowns, right? He's looking like a guy who maybe his ceiling is game manager. But he's showing you more than just a turnover machine, sack happy quarterback that we saw from the opening part of the season. And part of that is Bieniemy. It takes growth. It takes time for players to kind of get a handle on what the coach is asking of them. It takes time for the coach to get a handle of what the player is capable of. Like I said, Howell is a sack monster. He averaged, this is just his average now, over the first, 6 weeks? 2, 3, 4, 7 weeks? No fewer than 4 in any game. Last 7 weeks? 6 weeks, no more than 4 in any game. Do you see how the difference is? Like his max, he had 9 in week 3. Okay? He's had 2 times in the past 6 weeks where he's had more than 4, or he's had 4 or more sacks. Just 4 sacks, sorry, no more. Two times. Last week he had 3 sacks. Took 3 sacks. Bieniemy is getting him to play like a quarterback. He's developing him. Is he a great play caller? I don't think we know that yet still, because I don't think that the Commanders roster is in a position to evaluate that just yet. You can say the same thing about Luke Getsy in Chicago. I just don't know that anything is definitive in a situation like Commanders where it's clearly gone stale. There's not much to really be upset about because I think it's just run its course, and that happens a lot. It's not as uncommon as it might seem, or as fans might hope, because I think fans, like organizations, can become enamored with the idea of what that team is supposed to be. And when the reality strikes, it can be a harsh pill to swallow, especially when your best players, like a Jonathan Allen, are coming out and telling you, hey, man, this ain't working. That's a tough thing to have to deal with, so I'm not surprised by that. Did the 49ers expose the Philadelphia Eagles? If you don't know, the 49ers and the Eagles met up in Week 13 on Sunday Night Football. Or I'm sorry, it was the late game. It wasn't the Sunday Night Football. The Sunday Night Football was Packers and the Chiefs, which I knew, by the way. I think I called that on this episode with my last slate of picks, that the Chiefs were going to drop that game to the Packers. Because the Packers are, like I said, I just told you, the team is in place. They really only switched out the quarterback this year, and it's not a guy who was a rookie or a guy who hasn't been there. It's a guy who knows the system better than anybody else other than the guy who he's replacing. Like, it's just, it's incredible to me, the people that they were going to be so bad. I know some of that was wishful thinking from Bears fans, but there was a lot of media pundits as well that felt the same way. Again, back to the Niners and the Eagles, 42-19, 49ers in Week 13. Now, I'll say this. There's been something off about the Eagles all season. Their explosive plays have been there, but it seems like they just, as an overall group, they have not been the explosive team that we thought they were. And I really don't think it's the offense. I think it's the defense. And what I mean is, when you know you have a defense that can go out and get stopped basically at will, it almost frees you up to kind of take some more shots, take some more risks. You've had Jalen Hurts dealing with an injury, so that hasn't helped anything. They're really missing T.J. Edwards, who's, if not leading still, has a share of or is close to the top of the leaderboard in tackles this season with the Bears. I think their biggest fall off has just been the defensive side of the ball not picking up any of the slack when the offense can't do it. And that, well, let me not say that, because they've come up with some timely plays too. But as we saw against the 49ers, who are loaded, the Eagles are still somewhat of a front-running team. And just that, I don't know that they have the dynamic pass rush outside. Brandon Graham is still solid. Josh Sweat is still good. But they're getting killed in the intermediate. The linebackers aren't doing great. They just signed Shaq Leonard off a free agency from the Indianapolis Colts. You know, he's had back injuries in his career. I just don't know. Maybe exposed is too harsh of a word. But they definitely showed some fatal flaws in that Eagles team that, if you're a fan, you have to sit back like, how do we address this? What can you even do at this point of the season? You're not bringing in any more linebackers. I don't know if any more players who have the ceiling of a Shaq Leonard are going to be made available. You're going to have to just kind of fight it out, battle it out, and hope that your offense finds that consistent rhythm that they, like I said, they just kind of seem to lack from drive to drive, from game to game. Just an interesting dissection of the NFC, because it's kind of shaking out how we thought. It's just kind of taking a little bit to get there. I don't think we knew that the 49ers would be such a dominant team coming into the year, and even a few weeks into the season. We thought the Eagles would be that team. They were rolling. They were finding ways. But Brandon Graham said he was happy that they lost, because they were winning them basically on borrowed time. So maybe this will spur them to kind of right the ship, but it's definitely a thing that I think they have to take note of. They got whooped. This wasn't no close. They got whooped on. Take note. The AFC is a little clearer, but not really, because with Joe Burrow gone, it's a 3-team race really between the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. I don't think the AFC South is going to get it. Shout out to CJ Stroud, brother. I love what you're doing down there. I don't think y'all are making the Super Bowl. I don't see the Jacksonville Jaguars doing anything substantial in the postseason if they make it. So it's those 3 teams: Bills, Chiefs, and the Ravens. I can't put the Chiefs up there yet. They are the reigning champions, but I've seen this offense struggle far too many times to think that they can go up against the other top teams and do it. They just lost the game to the Packers, like I said, that they weren't supposed to. Now that was on the road, but you're not going to be at home because you lost that game. So you're like the 4th seed now. You'd be on the road in the postseason, or you'd host a wild card game and then you'd go on the road if you advance and face a higher seed. But they would be 3rd on that list. Bills and Ravens. I go Ravens first because I know the Ravens defense will step up, and I know that the Ravens can lean on their running game. The Bills offense is probably more explosive, but it's so heavily reliant on that kind of thing for Josh Allen. On Josh Allen, that I just don't know that they can sustain against a team like the Ravens, who's going to be physically tough and is going to try to control the ball and keep you off the field and maybe force you into try to force in some things because you don't have as many opportunities. I've seen that happen too. So if you asked at my order, and you didn't, but I'm giving it to you anyway, my order is Ravens, Bills, and then the Chiefs. And I think the Chiefs have some work to do if they want to keep competitive, if they have to face one of those teams in the postseason. So Jake Browning went out and did his thing for the Cincinnati Bengals. And more than the stats, I think it just goes to show the importance of proper coaching. You can look at Brock Purdy, too. These are guys who were unheralded. I don't even know if Browning was drafted. I know Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. but they came and they got development, right? I think that's such an underrated part of coaching duties in the NBA and the NFL, or in the NFL and the NBA. Actually, wrong emphasis. Put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. But yeah, I think it's a dying, maybe not dying, but it's underrated, underappreciated in both the NFL and the NBA arenas. And I think what you're seeing from those two guys, from Browning on Monday night, and have seen from Brock Purdy over the last 2 years. I don't remember how much he played last year. He played it all, but I know he got that UCL injury. He had to go Tommy John route. These guys are being developed. They came in with reps. Browning was an accomplished quarterback at the University of Washington, if I'm not mistaken. These guys are coming in and they're locking up the job because they're smart. They're able to play the position. They've got the reps, so they've got the experience, and then they're getting coached to deliver on the game plan, to execute the game plan. We got to stop underrating how much coaching affects what these players do. You put them in position. It's a big chessboard. It's all 11 is 1, all that stuff, and yet we still seem to leave out the impact that poor coaching decisions can have on a player. Poor coaching, poor staff, whatever you want to call it, can have on a player's development. I think it's sad because a lot of players go by the wayside simply because of that, and I just don't think that that's fair, because a lot of times it is coaches, and we see those coaches become retreads, and they get to come back, and then this, that, and the third, and I've never been a fan of that. I've always said that it's kind of got to be the other way around. You need to give these players as many chances as possible because they still have the ability that you saw. For some reason, it's not coming out. Now that doesn't mean you can shift, staffs out in and out and this and the third, but I think it needs to be much more of a discerning eye on that than what has been in to date, in my opinion. So, switching gears real quick before we do get up out of here, here's some NBA notes. I do have a game to get to. The Atlanta Hawks are taking on the Brooklyn Nets. The Bulls are also in action against the Charlotte Hornets tonight. So I will be catching me on over at Soaring Down South on X, tweeting the game action from that handle. We'll have a story up later on tonight, depending on how late they decide to run the game. It's only 6:30, so they better be good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so a couple of notes around the NBA real quick. KD picks the Lakers to win the in-season tournament. He says that it's all set up for them. They have a good team. He said that they have fans that travel everywhere, and they're rolling. Said it's set up for them to win. Listen. You get in there, LeBron James, a big proponent of a team going to Las Vegas. I would imagine we're going to see a show from the King. That would be my humble guess if we were having to guess about what that matchup was going to look like. So I'm looking forward to it, to be honest with you. You heard Damian Lillard talking about the players not necessarily getting on board with it at first, but then they finally did because they realized the competitiveness has come out of it. And I think that's been something that's been evident to me as well. I was one of the people, I didn't necessarily dislike the idea, but I wondered how much buy-in they would have from players if they weren't to do anything extra in this game. But the prize money, $500,000, is a lot of money to most of the people on the roster. And on top of that, competitiveness, right? People, you're trying to show me up, you're trying to do X, Y, and Z. Guess what? I'm about to do X, Y, and Z too. It led to some chippiness in some games. We saw the controversy at the end of the Lakers and the Suns matchup and the quarterfinal matchup. And actually wrote about that for Heavy on Lakers. Go ahead and check that out. Austin Reeves. I'm writing another story about Austin Reeves right now, but Austin Reeves had the ball. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker went to go double him. Looks like he dropped the ball. LeBron James calls a timeout. Granted the timeout, despite the fact that it looks like Reeves had let the ball go or had lost the ball at that point in time, meaning he should not have been granted a timeout. James, that is. Referee stood on it, doubled down on it. We'll see what comes of it. Ultimately, I don't think anything because it's over now, but these two teams will face each other again, and so certainly it'll pop back up. It's just there's a lot of action to it unexpectedly, and so I think that's encouraging, man. I really just don't know that you can be mad at that, and if the players are slowly but surely buying in even more, then I think that's the best part about it all. So you had the Bucks and the Pacers will battle on Thursday, and then that's the first game. Then you have the Lakers and the Pelicans in the second game. So be on the lookout for both those, man. That should be very interesting, very fun matchups. I can't wait to see either one of them. So other notes real quick. The Bulls, Zach LaVine is closer. I'm not sure if he's suiting up tonight against the Hornets. I don't think so. He's still supposed to be out for another week, or for a week. I think that he's got a couple more days for that. So regardless, the trade market's not moving for him. We'll see if that picks up. The Lakers are a team that could be interested in him, but they are more focused on DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. Casey Johnson of NBC Sports Chicago wrote about how the Bulls could have to package LaVine and Caruso together to get a deal done. So I wrote about that for Heavy on Bulls. Go ahead and check that out as well. And man, it's we'll see. Now I did not give you my week 14 picks, so before we get out of here for real, I'm gonna have to give you that. I'm not gonna do the game slate for the NBA stuff because there's just so many games in between when I do record in the next episode that it doesn't make sense to have a day of picks, no picks for 2-3 days, and then a day of nothing. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm not gonna do that this time. I will tell you that I'm picking the Bulls and the Hawks to win these games that they have tonight. So looking forward to that. But before we get out of here, let me go through this week 14 NFL slate. So you might hear some mix up and some back and forth. That's okay. That's okay. You know when you get to this point where this was supposed to be. But let me go ahead and give it to you. Patriots at the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. I have no faith in what Belichick is doing. I told you that last week. Give me the Patriots, even with old Mitch Trubisky under center with Kenny Pickett dealing with an injury. The Texans at the Jets. Just hyped up C.J. Stroud. I think I told you last episode of how I'm kind of stuck on how bad the Jets are. Like just how bad the Jets are, even without Aaron Rodgers. So give me the Texans in that matchup. The Ravens hosting the Rams. Give me the Ravens. The Rams have done some good things, and they could give this team some go because if there's an offense that can probably spread the field out, attack the weak points, air, ground, whatever, it'll be the Ravens. And that's not the only offense, but they're one of the offenses that can do it when they're rolling. Will they be rolling? West Coast team going to the East Coast for an early start against a formidable opponent? I don't know. So give me the Ravens in this one. So far we have Steelers, Texans, and Ravens. That is 2 home teams and a road buddy in the Texans. The Colts at the Bengals in the battle of the backups. Give me Gardner Minshew and that defense. But see, I don't know. Was Jake Browning a fluke? Will we see that again in week 14? Gardner Minshew's been doing his thizzle. Zach Moss is back there running strong. But it's just so much borrowed, so many spare parts for Indy right now that I just have to believe that the Bengals' talent will win out. They're still healthy in most other places. So give me the Bengals in that matchup. Buccaneers at the Falcons. Desmond Ritter's done some nice things. That Falcons offense, the Falcons still don't look like a good team overall. That's not going to change in season. So give me the Buccaneers in this one. Baker Mayfield does it again. I don't know. Jaguars at the Browns. I got to check on the status of Trevor Lawrence. He said, I think he's supposed to be all right. He has not been ruled out for week 14. I know that. They're taking on the Browns, who are dealing with their own situation. They had Joe Flacco come in there and help them out last week. We'll see if he can keep up his magic, but Joe Flacco's experience, so I wouldn't be surprised if he can go ahead and do something, especially if Lawrence cannot go in that game. Give me the Browns. I'm going to take the Browns. I think they came close last week to win the game, and I think that a beat-up Jags team who will be without Christian Kirk, even if Trevor Lawrence does suit up, I think it's going to be facing a tough opponent. That defense is legitimate in Cleveland, very much so. Lions visiting the Bears. The Bears were close last time. The Lions needed to get a late fourth quarter sack. Of course, the Bears, should have probably walked away with that game with a 2-score lead. They decided to let the Lions back in it and lost the game. They talked about finishing. Give me the Bears because the message is there and they were close, and the Lions defense can't stop a runny nose right now. Give me the Bears. I don't think it'll be easy, but I think they will come away with their second division win under Matt Eberflus. Seahawks at 49ers. Like the Seahawks story. I like Geno Smith. I like DK Metcalf. I like the signing thing. That's awesome. He stood on business last week. I looked it up. Give me the 49ers, though. They're a juggernaut, and we're not going to see them slow down until we get to the postseason, in which case I'm not sure who's stopping them before they get to the Super Bowl, because we know that they have the Cowboys number. They just beat up on the Eagles, and there's no guarantee that they'll do it again, but it was convincing. So it's not like a fluke in that instance either. The Vikings and the Raiders. Give me the Vikings. They are visiting a Raiders team that is kind of hapless. They had that spark from Antonio Pierce at interim head coach, but the Vikings defense will blitz the hell out of whoever's there back there under center for the Raiders. And I think Josh Dobbs will kind of settle in, maybe because he doesn't have to go against a multiple pass rushing threats. It's really just Max Crosby, and some of the other guys can kind of get loose off of that, but it's really Max Crosby. Give me the Vikings in that matchup. You have the Chargers hosting the Broncos, as well as Russell Wilson has done for the Broncos this year. Give me the Chargers. Bills, Chiefs. I'm going to take the Bills because I don't know if the Chiefs can keep up. Now, granted, the Chiefs' defense has been legit for most of the season, but we saw them, kind of have some faults in that last game. So give me the Bills in that matchup. Sunday Night Football is the Cowboys at the Eagles. The Cowboys are rolling, so I'm going to go with the Cowboys here, but I would not be surprised if the Eagles came in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after last weekend and decided to try to put a hurting on their divisional rival. We'll see if that goes to plan. Again, I'm taking the Cowboys in this game because they are looking like the more complete team at this point, but we'll see how it all turns out. And then Monday Night Football is going to be a double header. We have the Green Bay Packers and the New York Giants in the first matchup, as well as the Tennessee Titans and the Miami Dolphins. Now, these will be kicking off simultaneously, but in the first matchup, give me the Packers. I think they're a much better team than the Giants are, and they're finding their stride at the best time of the season because they can still make the postseason. And then give me the Dolphins because the Titans are a team that I have just a little bit more faith in them than what I have in the Patriots. And I've been telling you that for a few weeks now. So that's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, on X, at JoshyBuck. Hit up the Facebook page and the website, clockersports.com. You can find the show on X, the site on X at Clockersports. You can follow the show on X and on Facebook at 30spod. That's the number 30spod. Hit the YouTube channel, like, share, rate, review, subscribe, all those great things to help us grow and reach more people. Tell your friends about me, all those good things, man. We are trying to, like I said, expand and bring more great coverage to you if the Lord is willing. So, again, you can read everything, heavy on Bulls, heavy on Lakers, last word on sports, soaring down south, and, of course, the aggregation is all there on clockersports.com. Until the very next time, you already know what it is, man. I'm gone.